Hi everyone, this is Paul Kinane, the creator of PoserPhysics. This is a very short video just to give you a quick heads up on some of the new features that are in PoserPhysics 2012 Service Release 1. So we've changed the way a few things work at the moment. To give you a quick example, inside the props library there was previously a capsule, and that was conflicting with the Poser capsule, so we've renamed it Physics Capsule. So please use the Physics Capsule rather than the Poser capsule. If you use the Poser capsule, it won't get simulated, so the Physics Capsule is the one to get. To give you an idea of just some of the little neat things that we've added into the system, if I add to Physics Capsules and sort of join them together, and I might add one more. And they're kind of all together very roughly to form a bit of a chain. There's probably much better ways of doing this than I'm showing here. So then when we run PoserPhysics, the old way of doing this was that we attached them via parenting. That was causing some issues, so we've changed the way this runs now. So if we go into the prop setting for capsule number 1, you'll see that there's an option to join it, a drop-down box now. So we can join capsule 1 to capsule 2 by just selecting capsule 2, and we can join capsule 2 to capsule 3, and I'll make the, well, for example, if we do a fixed joint and run it, they'll all drop together. If instead we do a ball joint, then they'll drop as a piece of rope. A bit hard to see from this, but anyway, just trust me on that. So one of the things that parenting was handy for was that you could move one of the elements and they would all move, and that's no longer the case because we're not parenting. So to get around that, there is now a create group button, and this will appear if the selected prop, being this capsule, has a child or a prop that is joined to it. So when we create a group, that creates a poser group called grouping 1, and then you can select them and rotate them and do all that kind of nice stuff. So then when we run the simulation, that runs as per before, but there's no need to reparent the props afterwards, so that's all taken out of your hands. The other thing is that if we turn the display origins on, you can see that this prop's origin is at the left end and its endpoint is at the right end, and we are joining the next prop we will join to the endpoint. So this prop here gets joined to the endpoint, and this one will join to the endpoint as well, and that will simulate a bit better. So that's a nice piece of rope now. Just deleting one of these, and if we take this prop, I'll move it a little bit further away. If we take this prop here, we can now join it to the ground, and that only is a fixed joint though. So when we join it to the ground, you'll see that it doesn't move. So you can see the effect of the parenting of this is at the end point of the join to prop. So we're looking at this right capsule here. There's a couple of new anchoring points. So this prop here, instead of being anchored at the right end of its parent, we can anchor it at its own origin, which is going to be that left end there. So we set the anchor point to this prop's origin and run the simulation, and you can see it rotates around its origin as a ball joint. We can also parent it to the end point of this prop. And we run that simulation and you can see it swings out there. So that's all pretty neat. Now, one of the great new features is, I'll just delete those two, is that we can have little motors. So we've got a box in here. I'll just put a couple of boxes in there. So you see those three boxes. We can, I'll delete the top one, sorry. We'll parent the bottom one to the ground so that it doesn't move. Parenting it to the ground is exactly the same as making it immovable. This top one here, we will move a little bit off to the side to demonstrate it. We can join it to, we'll join box 2 to box 1. So this box 2 here, instead, you can see under the joints we've got the normal joints. We've got some universal joints, which I'll cover in a little bit. And then there's motor X, motor Y, and motor Z. So motor Y, for example, is a hinge joint in the Y-axis, and that means that it will spin in the Y-axis. But the motor Y is the same as the hinge joint, but with force propelling it. So if we choose motor Y and run the simulation, you can see that it flips around there. I'll change those joint settings a bit. Now you can see that was going a little bit fast. If we, let's create a group and raise the group a little and rerun we'll change the, you can change the speed by if you select the prop, you can go into velocity, it's set to 50. If we make that 10 and run the simulation, you can see that it goes around much slower. So this prop here has a motor in the Y-axis to this prop here. Now, to demonstrate this, if we put if we create this motor in the, I'm just looking at what in the Z-axis, which is left to right. So the motor is in the Z-axis and run it. You'll see that it rotates the other way, and that will just go on forever. And you can adjust the velocity is the end speed, and the max force down here on the bottom right is the maximum amount of force that it applies. So if we make that very small, 0.01, oh sorry, if we make that very large, say 10, it will instantly come up to speed. It's not showing that example very well, but you can change that to a very small number to have less acceleration in getting up to its final velocity. Just covering a couple of other joint types, I'll just delete this. I'll load a box and another box and another box and another box. Now we have universal joints, so box 2 will parent to box 1, box 3 will parent to box 2, join to box 2, and box 4 will be to box 3. Now the joint type we'll use here is the universal Y. Now a universal joint is exactly the same as a ball joint, but it is constrained, in this case, in the Y-axis. So it will not allow any spin. It will not allow this spin when joined relative to that box there. So the universal joint is just a 2-axis ball joint effectively, and the axis at the end is the constraint. So I will make all of them universal Y. Now again, these are the boxes are, this box here is joined to this box at its origin, which is at the bottom. I'll make it the end point, which is in the middle, but yeah, boxes are not ideal for demonstrating this. So they're all universal Y's. They are connected to the join to prop endpoint, and if we run the simulation, you can see that they fall. They're a little bit out of alignment, so let me fix that. I'll just sort of put them back into alignment there, like that. And we'll run the simulation. So you can see there was no spin in the y-axis between those boxes. So that's the universal joint. Finally, just to show you another new feature, we've added cylinders. So this is the physics cylinder here. The physics cylinder is just is like a capsule, but it has flat ends instead of, you can see it just bounces as per normal. Has flat ends rather than curved ends. Now there are some limitations with the capsule. It will bounce off a box. So if we've got this box here, let me just put the box under the capsule and make the box immovable. You'll see that it bounces fairly unspectacularly. Let me try that again. Okay, you can see it bounces off the box quite nicely. If we have the ODE physics engine does not cater for cylinders bouncing off other cylinders or bouncing off capsules. So if we instead load, that's the wrong capsule. If we load the physics capsule here and we put it under that there and make it immovable, you'll see that there is no collision detection between the cylinder and the capsule. So it goes straight through. So the limitation on cylinders is that they do not collide with other cylinders or with capsules, but they do collide with trimeshes like planes or with boxes. But despite the limitations, they're still pretty cool. So we can take this cylinder and pop it down here, and we can add another cylinder here, and I'll put this the other side of the box, and this is going to be a very crude motor vehicle. So if we take both cylinders and parent them to box number 1, box 1 and box 1, and we are going to parent them so that they spin with with the back wheel will have a motor which will spin in the z-axis, which is that way. It will spin in the z-axis, so that will be motor z, and it will spin around its own origin. And this prop here is the front wheel, so it will just be a hinge in the z-axis, and it will spin around its own origin. So if we run this now, now that box is parented to, that box is immovable. So let me make it movable and run it. And there it goes. So you can create pretty funky, well, you can see that I've not lined it up particularly well, but you can see the overall effect there. So you can place a car prop over the top of this, make it not included in the simulation, and it will just sit there and follow that box. Now another element that was missing in the original PoserPhysics was the concept of rolling resistance. So let me put a plane in here, high-res square, and I'll just pivot it a little bit like that and like that. So when we run, let me take the joint out, and we'll move the screen across. That cylinder should roll down the plane. Now that cylinder will, you can see it's rolling very slowly. It will eventually come to rest. The old version of PoserPhysics, it would have rolled forever. And the reason it comes to rest is because if we look under the universe actor, you can see that we've got angular damping and linear damping. So let me just raise that a little more and get a bit more speed out of it. Okay, so you can see it's sort of stopping at the end of the screen there. We'll go back to the universe. If we set the angular damping to 0.01 and the same for linear damping, that will create effectively a large amount of rolling resistance and wind resistance. So if we run that, you'll see that it comes to rest very quickly. So if you've got elements in your scene that are rolling too far, or the scene has too much momentum and you need to cool it down a bit, go into the universe actor and increase the damping. So linear damping is the amount of wind resistance of objects moving through the air effectively, and angular damping is like a rolling resistance damping, so you can tweak those as required. So it's a very brief rundown on some of the new features of PoserPhysics. I hope I haven't gone too quickly. Please feel free to email me if you've got any questions. There's a couple of other new things that will go into this service release, so it's quite a few weeks away, but I've thought it was worth just showing everybody all the new features. Thanks for